hospitals cure the living. But these ones never release the dead. And tonight, you're about to walk through the doors of Australia's 15 most haunted medical institutions. Places where shadows move on their own. Whispers echo long after midnight, and the past refuses to stay buried. What you're about to hear isn't just history. It's everything that still lingers in the dark. Let's begin. When Larundel Mental Asylum, Bundoora, Victoria. They say Larundel never truly went silent. Even now, long after the last patient was moved out and the halls were stripped bare, something lingers in the shadows of its abandoned wards. It begins with a whisper just enough to make you doubt your own footsteps. As you enter, the air is unnaturally cold, as if the building still remembers every scream, every treatment, every forgotten name. People who wander inside often report the same thing: the sound of a child humming, drifting through the corridors where the children's ward once stood, though the rooms have been empty for decades. As you move deeper, the atmosphere tightens, wallpaper peels like old skin, doors creak without a breeze, and the fluorescent lights long dead seem to flicker in the corner of your eye. Some claim they've seen silhouettes standing at the end of the hall, only to vanish the moment you approach. Others describe a woman in a white hospital gown, wandering near Ward C, her head lowered, her steps slow, leaving behind the faint scent of antiseptic. No record ever confirms who she was. Yet everyone who's seen her swears she looks painfully real. Locals warn not to stay too long, because Larundel has a way of watching you, of pulling you into its past. And if you ever hear that soft humming behind you, they say there's only one thing to do. Don't turn around. The moment you look back, you might not walk out alone. Psychs. Beechworth Lunatic Asylum, Mayday Hills Hospital, Victoria. They say the walls of Beechworth still breathe. Once one of Australia's most notorious asylums, its sprawling corridors now stand silent, yet never truly empty. Visitors stepping through its decaying entrance often feel it immediately. A pressure in the air, like countless eyes watching from behind rusted door frames. Doubt creeps in as faint footsteps echo across the tiled floors, even when no one else is inside. And then comes the murmuring soft, fractured voices drifting from abandoned rooms, as if the patients who once lived here are still trying to be heard. Walking deeper into Mayday Hills is like descending into someone else's memories. Doors slam without warning. Cold spots bloom in the warm air. Guides swear they've seen a shadowed figure lingering near the old dining hall. A tall man with sunken shoulders who vanishes when approached. Others speak of the lady in blue, a spectral woman said to wander the gardens at dusk, her dress glowing faintly beneath the dying light. No matter how many times she appears, no one has ever been able to follow her without getting lost. But the most unsettling stories come from the Grevillea wing, where a nurse is said to patrol the hall long after her death, keys jingling softly at her side. Some guests hear them right behind their ear just before the corridor goes silent again. Many leave shaken, unwilling to look back, because in Beechworth, they say the dead don't resent visitors. They simply want you to stay a little longer. And if you're not careful, you just might... Aradale Mental Hospital, Ararat, Victoria. Aradale doesn't greet you so much as swallow you whole. The moment you step through its towering gates, the wind dies, and the world seems to hold its breath as if the building itself is deciding whether to let you leave. Once the largest psychiatric asylum in the Southern Hemisphere, Aradale carries a history steeped in suffering, and every corridor feels stained with the weight of those who never walked out. People come here doubting the stories, but that doubt never lasts long. It usually fades the moment they hear the first echo footsteps that don't match their own. Deeper inside, the hallways twist like a maze designed to confuse the living. Paint curls from the walls, forming shapes that look disturbingly like faces watching you pass. Some visitors feel a hand graze their shoulder in Ward 10, though no one stands behind them. Others swear the temperature drops instantly when they approach the old surgery rooms, where the infamous Dr. Freeman once performed treatments that left patients broken in both body and mind. Guides report seeing a dark figure lurking near the doorframe, a shadow with shoulders too broad and a posture too still to be human. But the most chilling whispers come from the women's wing, where a spirit known only as the matron is said to roam. She appears at the end of the corridor, her silhouette solid and unmistakable, only to dissolve the moment you blink. Those who see her say she isn't angry and just expectant, as if waiting for someone who never came. And as you leave Aradale, if you feel the sudden urge to look back, don't. They say the ones who do often spot a figure standing in the window, silently watching, as if marking who will return next. Gladesville Mental Hospital, New South Wales. Gladesville sits quietly above the Parramatta River, but the silence here is deceiving. The moment you enter its aging grounds, the air thickens as if the past is pressing itself against your skin. This was once one of Australia's earliest psychiatric institutions, a place where thousands lived, suffered, and were forgotten. Today, its sandstone buildings look calm in the daylight. Yet inside, every creak and whisper feels intentional. Visitors often start by doubting the rumors, but that doubt fades quickly when they hear soft tapping on the walls, like someone trying to signal from the other side. As you step deeper into the abandoned wards, the atmosphere shifts, the corridors narrow, shadows cling to the corners, and the floors groan beneath invisible footsteps. Some say they've seen a pale figure drifting along the former dormitories, a man in outdated patient clothing who disappears through doorways that have been sealed shut for decades. Others describe hearing low moans from the old treatment rooms, a sound so faint it leaves you unsure if it came from the building or your own imagination fighting to stay grounded. But the heart of Gladesville's haunting lies beneath the earth. Hidden tunnels connect several buildings, once used to move patients away from public sight. Anyone who ventures near them reports the same chilling sensation, a sudden cold breath on the back of the neck, followed by a whisper you can't quite understand. Guides warn that if you feel someone walking behind you, don't turn around because whatever follows you in those tunnels doesn't want to be seen. And when you finally step outside into the open air, the relief is immediate. Yet many claim that as they walk away, they hear a single, distant plea echoing from the empty halls behind them, as if Gladesville isn't ready to let its story stay buried. You're at Key, Callan Park Hospital for the Insane, Rozelle, New South Wales. Callan Park looks peaceful from the outside sunlit lawns, grand Victorian buildings, and trees that sway gently in the breeze. But the moment you step closer, the calm unravels. Locals say the grounds carry a strange heaviness, a quiet tension that settles in your chest, as if the place is remembering everything you've forgotten to fear. Shadows move strangely here, stretching a little too long, lingering a little too close. And just when you begin to doubt the stories, the wind carries a whisper that doesn't sound like wind at all. Inside the old wards, the air feels colder, thicker. Doors stand crooked on their hinges, yet slam shut with unnerving force. Some visitors report hearing footsteps pacing behind them, slow, deliberate, matching their every turn through the labyrinth of peeling hallways. Others swear they've seen a woman in a tattered nurse's uniform, standing at the far end of Ward 17, her posture rigid, her face hidden beneath shadow. She never moves, she just watches, and when you blink, she's gone, but the metallic scent of disinfectant lingers, sharp enough to sting your throat. The most unsettling stories come from the treatment rooms, where echoes of distant screams sometimes drift through the cracked tiles. Guides say these sounds happen when the building is completely empty. Long after tours have ended, a few people flee trembling, insisting they heard someone whisper their name faintly in the dark. They say Callan Park doesn't want to frighten you, it wants to be remembered. But if you feel a cold hand brush your arm as you leave, and don't look back, because here, not every figure standing behind you is alive. Secret Step, Q Mental Asylum, Willsmere Hospital, Victoria. Willsmere rises like a palace from another world. Its grand architecture, almost beautiful enough to hide the darkness beneath. But the moment you cross its threshold, that beauty twists into something unsettling. The air feels too still, as if the building is holding its breath. This was once one of Victoria's most overcrowded and criticized asylums, a place where thousands passed through and far too many never left. Visitors step inside expecting dust and silence. Yet what they find instead are whispers that slide along the walls like something alive. Walk deeper and the temperature drops sharply. Long hallways stretch ahead, lined with locked doors that seem to pulse with memories. Some say they've heard soft crying behind those doors, even though the rooms have been empty for decades. Others describe seeing a faint figure standing on the old central staircase, an elderly man with hollow eyes, gripping the railing as if he's still waiting for someone who never arrived. Approach him, and he vanishes into the shadows, leaving behind a cold breath that chills the spine. But the true heart of Willsmere's haunting lies in the tower ward. Guides warn visitors to avoid lingering there, especially near dusk. People report hearing hurried footsteps circling the upper floors, followed by a sudden, suffocating silence. A few claim they felt someone tug lightly at their clothing, as though trying to pull them back inside. And every so often, when the light hits the windows just right, a silhouette appears on the top floor motionless, watching the grounds below. Locals say Willsmere is not angry. It's lonely. It wants witnesses, not escape. And if you ever feel the urge to glance over your shoulder on the way out, resist it. Because those who do often see a figure standing in the corridor waiting, patient, and far too close. Waiting. Kenmore Psychiatric Hospital, Goulburn, New South Wales. Kenmore sits on a hill overlooking Goulburn, its red brick buildings faded but unyielding, like they're guarding the secrets buried inside. From a distance, it looks almost serene, wide lawns, quiet courtyards, the echo of wind slipping through empty windows. But once you step inside, the calm twists into something colder. The silence becomes too perfect, too heavy, as if the hospital is listening to you. Visitors often describe an immediate sense of unease, a prickling at the back of the neck that grows stronger with every step down its long, echoing corridors, deeper in the complex. The temperature drops abruptly. Light struggles to reach the corners, leaving pockets of darkness that seem to breathe. Some wanderers report hearing faint, dragging sounds from the old patient wings, as though someone is shuffling just out of sight. Others swear they've seen figures lingering at the ends of the hallways. Tall silhouettes that remain perfectly still until the moment you blink. In the former isolation rooms, people feel a sudden tightness in their chest, accompanied by a whisper so soft it's impossible to tell whether it came from the room or inside their mind. But the most chilling tales come from the underground service tunnels connecting the wards. Guides rarely go down there, and when they do, they never linger. Footsteps echo from behind, out of sync with your own. Cold fingers seem to brush past your arm in the pitch dark. Some visitors claim they heard someone breathing inches from their ear, slow, deliberate, waiting. Those who run back to the surface say the darkness feels like it's following them, reluctant to let its visitors escape too easily. Kenmore doesn't roar or rage. Its haunting is quiet, patient, almost curious. And when you finally step back into the daylight, you can't shake the feeling that something down there watched you leave and hoped you might return. Royal Derwent Hospital, Willow Court Asylum, New Norfolk, Tasmania. Willow Court doesn't whisper its history. It wears it openly, like a bruise that never fades. Once one of Australia's longest-running psychiatric institutions, its sprawling grounds feel frozen in time, as if the past refuses to release its grip. The moment you step inside the weather-stained buildings, the air shifts. A low, steady chill settles across your skin, and you can't shake the feeling that someone is standing just behind you, watching, waiting. As you move deeper into the complex, every sound becomes amplified. Floorboards groan under invisible footsteps, and distant doors slam with startling force even when no breeze touches them. Visitors often report seeing figures drifting through the Alpha and Bravo wards, shadowed silhouettes that linger at door frames before dissolving into the dark. Some describe a small girl wandering the halls in a faded dress, her head tilted, her footsteps silent. No one knows who she was, but everyone who's seen her remembers the same detail. She never blinks. Then there's Ward A, infamous among investigators. The lights flicker wildly here, and people feel sudden waves of nausea or dread, as if the building itself is pushing them out. A few brave souls claim they've heard someone breathing softly beside them, only to turn and find an empty hallway stretching into darkness. Locals warn that Willow Court doesn't just haunt, it clings. It keeps pieces of everyone who enters. And if you hear a voice whisper your name from one of the abandoned rooms, they say you must not respond, because in this place, the dead are always listening, and sometimes they answer back. New Mine, Royal Adelaide Hospital, Adelaide, South Australia. They say the old Royal Adelaide Hospital never truly slept even now, long after most of its original wings have been abandoned. Step inside its dim corridors and a strange tension settles in the air, as if the walls themselves are listening. At first, you might convince yourself the faint footsteps behind you are just echoes, that the soft knocking on distant doors is nothing more than the building settling. But doubt fades quickly here. Everyone who explores these halls eventually feels the same thing, the unmistakable sensation of being followed. Deeper inside, the atmosphere thickens. The old surgical wing is the worst rows of empty rooms where countless lives began, ended, or changed in an instant. Visitors often report sudden drops in temperature, cold enough to sting the skin. Some swear they've seen a figure in pale blue scrubs drifting past doorways, walking with a slow, deliberate stride. Others describe hearing a woman crying faintly near the maternity ward, her voice fading the moment you step closer, as though she senses you and slips away. But the most unnerving tales come from the underground tunnels, built to move patients discreetly across the hospital. Down there, the air feels heavy, metallic. People say they hear gurney wheels squeaking in the dark, even though the tunnels haven't been used in years. A few claim they've felt a cold hand brush their backlight, searching, almost curious. As you finally emerge into the open air, it's hard not to look over your shoulder, because they say that once the hospital notices you, it doesn't forget. And if you ever return at night, don't be surprised if you hear footsteps falling perfectly in sync with your own, no matter how fast you walk. Niched Quarantine Station North Head, Manly, New South Wales. They say the quarantine station holds more than history. It holds the last breaths of thousands who never made it past its gates. As you approach the old sandstone buildings, the air thickens with a strange tension, as if the ground itself remembers every moment of fear, fever, and final goodbyes. At first, you might dismiss the stories as exaggeration, the usual rumors that cling to old places. But that confidence fades quickly when you hear soft footsteps behind you on the boardwalk. Even though no one is there, night settles cruelly at North Head. Lantern lights flicker without wind, shadows stretch unnaturally long, and the old shower block, the place where new arrivals were scrubbed, burned. and disinfected feels colder than any other room. Some visitors swear they feel invisible hands brushing their arms, as though desperate patients still reach out, begging not to be forgotten. Others hear coughing in the empty infirmary, a weak, raspy sound echoing through the darkness before dissolving into silence. Guides tell of a woman in a black dress seen drifting near the old hospital steps. She never speaks. She only stares toward the harbor, as if waiting for a ship that will never return. And then there's the figure often spotted near the morgue, a tall silhouette that stands perfectly still, no matter how close you step, until you blink, and it disappears. The quarantine station doesn't want to scare you. It wants you to listen, because every wall, every path, every abandoned room carries a story that refuses to fade. And if, as you leave, you feel a presence walking just behind your shoulder, don't turn around. Some say the ones who do never feel truly alone again. Willsmere, Mont Park Asylum, Macleod, Victoria. Mont Park has a way of unsettling you before you even step inside. The sprawling grounds look peaceful at first, sunlight filtering through the tall gums. Old brick buildings half reclaimed by vines, but that calm is a mask. Locals say that as dusk settles, the air changes, thickening with a quiet tension that makes your instincts sharpen. Visitors often begin with doubt, brushing off the stories as exaggeration, until they hear the distant echo of a door slamming somewhere deep in the abandoned wings. Long after every entrance has been sealed, inside, the halls feel endless. Paint chips from the walls like old memories peeling away, and the floors creak softly as if someone is walking just a few steps behind you. Some explorers report hearing wheeled trolleys rolling down empty corridors, the metallic clatter fading before they can find the source. Others swear they've seen fleeting glimpses of a figure in a patient gown wandering near the old administration building, her movement slow, her face impossible to make out. No record ever confirms who she was, but everyone who's seen her describes the same thing. She doesn't walk like someone living. Deeper in the complex lies the old treatment block, where whispers seem to swirl without direction. People describe the unsettling sensation of being watched from the upper balconies, even though the floors above are inaccessible. A few claim to feel sudden bursts of icy air brushing past their arms, followed by a faint sob from somewhere down the hall. Whether it's memory, imagination, or something still haunting those rooms, no one can say for sure, but the most chilling moment always comes when visitors leave. As they step back into the open air, many report hearing a soft, deliberate tap on the window behind them, like a farewell or a warning. And those who dare to look often see a pale silhouette framed in the glass, standing perfectly still, as if waiting for the next person foolish enough to walk back inside. Sunbury Lunatic Asylum, Victoria. Victoria. Sunbury looks peaceful from a distance, red brick buildings resting quietly on rolling hills. But the moment you step inside, the calm fractures, the air grows still, unnaturally heavy, as if the walls themselves are listening. Locals whisper that Sunbury holds more than memories. It holds echoes, footsteps that follow you long after you stop walking, whispers that slither across the hallways, too close to your ear to be imagined. At first you tell yourself it's just the old building shifting, but the feeling that something is behind you never truly fades. As you move deeper, the rooms begin to close in. Paint peels down the walls like falling ash. Doors groan without any wind, and the temperature drops in sudden, breath-stealing bursts. Visitors often speak of a figure in a dark patient gown, drifting near the former isolation cells tall, still always positioned just at the edge of sight. When approached, he doesn't vanish. Instead, he seems to step backward into the shadows, as if inviting you to follow. Few ever do. The most chilling tales come from the infirmary wing, where nurses once worked through nights filled with screams and sorrow. People report hearing trolleys rolling along the tiles even though the corridors have been empty for decades. Some feel a cold hand brush their arm, gentle yet desperate, as if someone is still reaching for help that will never come. Sunbury doesn't rely on jump scares. It creeps beneath your skin, slowly, deliberately, and those who leave often swear the building isn't finished with them. They say if you ever hear someone softly humming behind you in the courtyard, don't turn around, because whatever hums at Sunbury has been waiting far too long for someone to answer. Threen, Wolston Park Asylum, Goodna Asylum, Brisbane, Queensland. Wolston Park has a way of unsettling you before you even reach the entrance. The trees around the grounds seem to lean inward, as if trying to warn you of what waits inside. Locals whisper that the asylum never truly quieted after its final patients were moved, its long, tormented history still echoing through every corridor. At first, you might dismiss the stories as exaggeration, until you feel the strange heaviness that settles on your chest. The moment you step into the old wards, a weight that feels almost like someone watching from just behind your shoulder. Deeper inside, the silence sharpens. Doors tremble on rusted hinges. Though the air is perfectly still, visitors often describe hearing wheelchairs rolling down the hall, even though every one of them has long since been removed. Some claim to have seen figures standing in doorways, patients in outdated uniforms who vanish the instant you blink, leaving only the smell of damp linen behind. The old isolation cells are the worst. People report hearing muffled sobs from within, quiet but unmistakable, as if someone trapped there is still begging to be let out. The staff cottages and tunnels connecting the buildings tell even darker stories. Guides say shadows move independently of their owners, drifting across the walls like memories trapped in the peeling paint. A few brave souls who've stayed past dusk swear they heard their own name, whispered softly from the far end of the corridor, in a voice not quite human. They say Wolston Park doesn't haunt, it remembers, and if you walk its halls too long, the asylum may decide you're not just a visitor, but someone it wants to keep. Scene: Fremantle Lunatic Asylum, Western Australia. Fremantle Lunatic Asylum stands proudly under the coastal sun, its white limestone walls glowing as if nothing dark ever happened inside. But the moment you step closer, the air shifts heavy, salty, disturbed. Locals say the cries of former patients still drift through the courtyards at night, carried by the same ocean breeze that once rattled the asylum's iron bars. You try to dismiss the stories, yet there's an immediate unease, a prickling sense that someone is following just out of sight. Inside, the hallways are long, echoing impossibly cold for a building bathed in Western Australia's heat. Visitors often hear footsteps pacing above them, though the upper floors have been locked for years. Shadows stretch unnaturally across the walls, flickering in ways no light source can explain. Some report a woman in an old hospital gown standing in the doorway of the former women's wing, her head tilted, her hands trembling, her face hidden by tangled hair. She never approaches, she simply watches, as though she recognizes you, or mistakes you for someone she once feared. But it's the basement that leaves even the bravest in silence. Once used for isolation, its thick stone walls still hold a cold that sinks into the bones. People who enter describe sudden nausea, ringing in the ears, or an overwhelming sense of being pushed back toward the stairs. A few insist they heard desperate knocking from inside the sealed storage rooms, followed by a dragging sound that fades into nothing. When you finally rise back into the open air, Fremantle looks ordinary again, peaceful, sunlit, harmless. Yet many swear that as they walk away, they feel a presence trailing behind them, refusing to let go. And if, later that night, you hear a soft tapping at your window, don't look. Some spirits here followed people home, and they never returned alone. tier, Zaward Glenside Mental Hospital, Adelaide, South Australia. Zaward stands like a warning on the edge of Glenside, its sharp stone walls and iron-barred windows hinting at a past far darker than any guidebook admits. Built to hold the criminally insane, it carries a heaviness that settles on your shoulders the moment you step through its towering doors. At first, you may tell yourself it's just the history, just the cold, just your imagination. But Z-Ward loves testing certainty, and it usually starts with the sound of footsteps pacing above you, even when every floor is empty. As you venture deeper, the corridors tighten, bending the light into long, distorted shadows. The cells still hold the etched scratches of men who beg to be let out, their desperation lingering in the stale, unmoving air. Some visitors swear they've seen a figure sitting silently on a steel bed frame shackled, head bowed only for the room to be completely empty when the torchlight returns. Others describe a tall silhouette drifting past cell doorways, its movements too smooth, too fluid, too wrong to belong to anyone living. The most unsettling tales come from the central observation room. Guides say people often feel watched there, gripped by an icy dread that prickles across their skin. A few claim to have heard soft breathing inches from their ear, slow, deliberate, impossible to ignore. And once in a while, someone records a whisper on their phone, a single word, unintelligible, but filled with a rage that refuses to fade. Z-Ward does not hide its ghosts. It invites you to doubt, to step closer, to look twice at every shadow. And when you leave, if you feel the irresistible urge to turn around one last time, don't, because those who do often see a figure standing behind the barred window, staring back, as if memorizing the face of its next visitor. Every one of these asylums hides more than just crumbling walls. They hold stories that refuse to stay buried. And if you think this list was unsettling, wait until you see what still lurks in the tunnels, morgues, and forgotten wings we couldn't fit into this video. If you're brave enough for the next chapter, tap watch next. The darkness is deeper than you think, and we're only getting started.